Remember that record that you bought me like 2 years ago? Well, I just remembered that it's sitting in the closet. So I called you up just to tell you I've been meaning to listen to that. I've been meaning to listen to that. Why don't you come over and talk about it? Ooh. Why don't you come over and talk about it?
And that video set you straight to the top. But all right,
that's
everybody.
Right, baby.
Welcome to I've Been Meaning to Listen to That, the podcast where we go through albums we've been meaning to listen to and use as a conduit to learn about each other and our guests. I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee.
I'm Jon Butts.
And we got a great guest here. He's a fourth time. This is a fourth time appearance. It's Kevin Chestnut, everybody.
Yeah. What's good? Kev in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Weapons concealed and.
Bars.
I was like, let me not get off. This ain't my show. I ain't trying to get
bars
off.
off. Get the bars off.
Well, what are you working on now,
like
Kevin? What are you up to these days? Like where can people find you?
Oh man, you can find me so many places. I still make my own content from time to time at Kev Chestnut all across the interwebs. I'm working with an ad agency now, so I work on I work with a bunch of different brands, which is really fun. I get some free food and whatnots and trips, so that's cool. And I started a sports account called Who Likes Sports. So if you like sports, come join the team. It's very fast growing. I'm actually stunned that it grew as fast as it did.
Wow.
But you know what? I kind of know what I'm doing, which is why people should pay me to do things, because I was like, you know what? It makes sense. I knew the course to strike.
If any brands are hearing this, check Kevin out. Like,
he's got the keys, the major keys.
I got the keys. I took the hinges off the doors and I put them in the fuck boy's hands. It was the DJ Khaled video.
Oh, okay.
That sounds like some DJ Khaled.
I thought that's just something you came up with. I was like, whoa, you should monetize
It's that same DJ Khaled video where he first talks about the keys and stuff. It's that black and white video, and he's like saying all the crazy DJ Khaled saying. And one of the last ones he does is, I took the hinges off the doors and I put them in the fuck boy's hands. Because he had to take the hinges off. They wouldn't let him in, so he had to take the hinges off the door so he could let himself in.
Ooh. That's wise wisdom from DJ Khaled. My personal favorite is when he accepts Bob Marley's guitar. I don't know if y'all have seen that video.
Wait, what happened there?
So basically, he gets this like acoustic guitar gifted by the Marley family. He's like, whoa. He's like, looking at it. This is Bob Marley's guitar. Wow. And then he just tries to like start playing it, and he doesn't know how to play the guitar, but he has that like fake DJ Khaled like bravado. So he's just strumming it. Y'all got to check that out. I don't know where we can link it, but it's ridiculous.
I got to find that.
You know what, though? In DJ Khaled's defense, that's on the Bob Marley family to giving that to him. Why are you giving it to him?
Okay. As a child of South Florida, I know it's crazy, but DJ Khaled he was on a Jamaican radio station back in the 90s.
Okay.
That's why sometimes you'll hear him try to speak like patois when he'll be like saying some stuff. He'll be like, because he was DJing on like Jamaican radio stations and whatnot, and like he would do mixes with like King Waggy T. Shout out King Waggy T. I don't know if he's still alive or not. King Waggy T, South Florida, and so they would do like some of the Jamaican mixes before he made it to like 99 Jams.
Wow, Khaled, I wasn't familiar with your game.
You know what? You deserve it.
Guitar.
You deserve it. You deserve it, King.
With that being said, it doesn't mean that he could play guitar. But, he has his Jamaican bona fides, but not the guitar credentials necessary to play.
Mm-hmm. So anyways, we're talking about Biggie Smalls today. Notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die, seminal album. His debut album, the only album released during his lifetime. The one after that came like a few weeks after his death. Let's talk about Biggie himself, aka Notorious B.I.G. What is y'all's history with Biggie?
I'll go first. I mean, we kind of got to this point on the Pac episode, but going back, I feel like Biggie was also one of those people who was very ubiquitous and kind of larger than life. I feel like his story and his music kind of transcended him as the person. I've always been a Biggie fan, but I wouldn't say, I'm a stan. I really enjoy his music, though. Yeah, I feel like this album, it's been good to revisit it, but I was initially listening to it probably around high school, college. I saw Notorious in theaters, had this album, had Life After Death on my iPod. It's like used to listen to Party and Bullshit, just like didn't even have the soundtrack, just like had that song specifically in like the rotation. And also just like loved that collab album. Well, not collab album. It was a soundtrack to Tupac Resurrection when they did like the mashup song with him and Pac on it. So I've always been listening to Biggie over the course of my life. This is also a period in which I also remember being like young and seeing him on MTV and stuff. So I just want to call Pac's name out because I think my bias just swings to the West Coast, and we'll probably get into that a little bit more. But Biggie, I don't know. He's Biggie. He is among the best, if not, that top five, Jay-Z, Biggie, and Nas. You think about it, and you can't not put him up there. So that's kind of my history, just always been there.
Yeah, he is. He has always kind of been around, and I'm a child of the 90s, so your Big kind of was just, he was there. He was on TV all the time, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, there's Biggie. And that was definitely when I was coming into listening to rap music. My mom used to have the Give Me One More Chance cassette tape.
Nice.
And I would learn. That's how I learned the words. That's how I figured out there was 3 verses. And as I went on in my journey, I learned that wasn't always a thing. And Biggie was one of the first people to be doing that. He wasn't the first, but he was in that first wave of people like doing 3 verses and hooks. When I was in college, that's when I finally got to listen to this album like in full, because I never got to listen to it when I was a kid. I was like 8, 9,
right.
10. I was a little kid when I was probably like 9. If this came out in like 94, right? So yeah, I was like 9 when this came. So obviously I wasn't allowed to listen to it. But when I got to college, I remember just downloading a bunch of like classic hip hop albums, because I just I want to hear all the stuff I never got to listen to when I was a little kid.
The albums you even mean to listen to.
Exactly.
And like, I'm going to appear on something called a podcast.
Well, yeah, one day I'll appear on something called a podcast.
This will all be for something.
Yes, it'd all be for something. And it was. So yeah, I would listen to like America's Most Wanted, Ice Cube, and Me Against the World, Tupac, and then obviously Life After Death and Ready to Die. Just because I never got to listen to those albums. So that's kind of like my history with Big. I always loved Big. We always loved Big Papa. Actually, when I finished listening to the album today, because I did another listen today, and it made me go to Born Again, which was the first Biggie album that I owned, and Dead Wrong is on there. And I'm like, oh, man, this is so good. Oh, it's like, it's just, it's so good. It's so freaking good. The beat is just like,
hitting you in the face.
Yeah, it hits you in the face.
Posthumous album.
Yeah. It's the one that came
wild.
out like 99 ish, because like the Hot Boys are on that album. But on that on Dead Wrong, Eminem is on there, and that was very like
seven different levels of
devil
devil worship. Yeah, back when M was in his real hip hop pocket.
I'm ready to do an Eminem episode because I have some takes about Eminem, and I'm going to give y'all one right now.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, please. He's white.
Eminem is raising himself up the GOAT ladder because he is one of the only white artists that stayed down the entire time. He never went off and made no rock album.
That's real.
He didn't make any country
That's real. Yeah,
songs.
that's valid.
M is stayed down. He didn't start being like, "Oh, I'm
White Iverson."
None of that. Yeah, he no Post Malone stuff, no Pink. I was thinking about because I was watching the Pink music video just like 2 days ago. There you go. Talking about it was a very different Pink. When I
we
say
used
black
to think Pink was black.
Yeah, that's the original Black Pink. It was none of this
She was in our
stuff.
area for sure.
Yeah. She was the black. That was the Black Pink. You know what I'm saying? So she was the only one. I mean, he's the only one who stayed down. He didn't, like, oh man, I'm gonna be a Republican now and go back to my roots. He stayed down. He stayed hip hop. He stayed 10 toes. Shout out to Marshall Mathers. That was my Marshall take.
That's a great take. Yeah. My take is he's white.
Yep, that is a fact.
That's why I have a music review show. Like, and I really get into I do a lot of crate digging and I
details.
Figure a lot of things out. For me, I would say it's similar to Jon in that he's always been around. We talked about this before we started recording the show, but he was a guy I would see on dorm room posters at Target with like the Biggie with the crown, the picture of him with the crown, like that's so iconic. But beyond that, like I knew like I love you when you call me Big Papa. Like I knew that song. I knew it was all a dream. I used to be like, but like I just knew the beginnings of the songs and never listened to all three verses. And obviously I knew he was such a huge like impact on hip hop, and he is like when people like talk about 90s hip hop, they're always like, oh, Biggie and Nas, and I never listened to either of them before. And coming into this episode and this like kind of month of episodes, we just did a Pac episode pretty recently. There was like this kind of desire to like kind of compare the two and like kind of at the end of it decide which one I like better. Am I a Pac guy? Am I a Biggie guy? Am I an ass man or like
Today's?
That's really where I came at this with. And it's really interesting how similar these two are. And like, it is kind of like wild to think, oh shit, these two had a rap battle. Like these two massive personalities and these two like gods of like the voices of like God. They both have like these like booming godly voices. And to think of them fighting each other and to think of and to think about the time it was coming out and such, and like to think, oh, they shortly died after, and like, oh, both the heads of the company are both in prison now. Like, it's wild, and it's wild to think that so much like, their impact still reverberates to this day. But really, I didn't really know anything about him really at all. I watched that Biggie documentary like 4 years ago. I was just like, I just found it to be kind of boring. I just didn't find it to be that insightful really at all. Like, but I didn't know the context of it at all. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I feel like that would be something that a fan, like a big person who's already a fan, would want to see. Just to give you those little extra details. You always want to know a little bit more about all your favorites and whatnot. But I was going to say about Biggie and Pac is one thing that we always have to remember is that they were friends much longer than they were enemies.
Right.
And Marlon Wayans was talking about this in an interview recently because he obviously knew Pac. He went to like performing arts school with Pac.
Wow.
So they were friends, and obviously they did Above the Rim together and whatnot. He also talked about like how he was like he saw Pac like right before he died. Like him and Omar Epps, they all went to that same school.
Oh yeah.
And they were in Vegas for that fight, and he was like, I don't want to bother him. He's with his friends and da 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 da. And yeah, he got in the car.
He gave him that last look.
He saw him getting in the car, and he was saying like,
sheesh.
He didn't look like he really wanted to go.
He was like, he looked like he wanted to come with me, kind of.
Yeah. He didn't want to get in the car, but yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, but he was. The reason I say that because there's that famous picture of Biggie and Tupac together, and they're in that restaurant, and Marlon is there in the background of that. But it's just always important to remember that they were friends much longer than they were enemies, and it was a little bit of a one-sided beef to a degree. It was one side. It was very aggressive going in Biggie's direction, and Biggie just was like, we'll see. I'll drop a little bar on Jay-Z's album or something like that. If Faith have twins, she probably had two Pacs. Get it? Two Pacs.
Yeah,
that was another album I downloaded when I was in college because I never got to hear Reasonable Doubt in 1996. I was like, I'm downloading that. I want to know what the hype is about.
How long did it take to download these albums, by the way? Like back
a long
in the
time
day?
because back then, obviously, I had to download the songs individually. And then
this was like Kazaa or like Napster or LimeWire.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was downloading the songs individually and then just hoping that they were the correct version, and then going on like I don't even know where I would even go to see the correct track listing. I don't even know Wikipedia existed in 2005, 6. Like,
but yeah, honestly, jumping off like the same idea of this time period and like thinking about listening to Big and thinking about Pac and Biggie being friends, there was this freestyle that I had on my iPad too that was just like ripped from like a live recording, and I'm not sure what like the event was, but Biggie and Pac were on stage together, like handed the mics off to each other, and it was just like such a dope kind of nugget of hip hop lore. Like even at that time, I was like, I don't know where this happened. I don't know why I like have this on my iPod, but this is just really cool and interesting to know. Thinking about the beef, that there was this moment where they were like in collaboration together. You even see there's also that one, I don't know if it's an MTV News interview or something, but they're together too, just talking about like their friendship and just being in the game together.
Really good friend. Like I forget who it was. I listened to like a Biggie podcast, and they were talking about how much Big just like he loved Pac. Like he was saying he loved Pac. Like he would do anything about it. That's why I hurt him so bad when Pac started dissing him and whatnot. Because obviously when the incident when Tupac gets shot at the studio, he was going to see Big.
Right. Happened in the lobby.
Yeah, he was in the lobby. He was going to see Big. That's why he felt like Big set him up, and Big obviously he was very hurt by that. But they just was emphasizing how much he loved him. And one other thing I want to say, before we can move on after this. The other thing I wanted to say was that it's always mind blowing to me how incredibly young they were.
Yeah.
He was 24 years old when he died. He was 24.
He sounds like an unk. Like
Tupac was 25 years old when he died. Like these were like children, essentially.
Right.
So,
I mean, Big used to smoke mad Newports, so that's probably why his voice sounded like that a little bit. But it's a little scary to think about that too. Just like how existential obviously both of their lyrics are, but just how their lives were cut short, and there was this real palpable fear of death and it actually materializing. And absolutely them having such what feels like mature outlooks too, and having gone through so much life, and I know we'll get into it when we get into the songs, but that's one thing that always strikes me, being someone who's 34. He Big was 10 years younger than me, and sounds like more knowledgeable than I ever will be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you see some Pac interviews. He's talking about some stuff. It's like, oh man, that's right. I'm like, oh damn, that was in 1993. I should have. That it still applies. And maybe if Fox still lived, we could, we could have got some solutions. But
Yeah.
we lost a potentially great leader who never got to
Yeah.
the other side.
For sure. And like, yeah, that's tragic. That's very tragic too. Like the fact that they like had this friendship, and based on the albums we listened to, like, yeah, of course they would get along. Yes, of course there'd be this like real kinship here. And it just seemed to be this big misunderstanding that caused this rift, and this caused this like, and which probably just adds to like the anger and frustration both of these artists feel. Like, oh, this person I thought was real, this person I thought would be my friend, and who would really understand exactly what I'm going through. Now we can't be friends anymore, and it's like that's really, really, really a big bummer. But like the other thing, like that I'm noticing listening to these two albums is Jon made the point last time about how Pac was sort of like projecting, and through his lyrics and through his songs, like projecting his death like ahead of time, and like kind of in a way manifesting his death early. And Biggie was doing that too. And like, I think not only just like, oh, we're rap stars, we are talking about the same things, but this like sadness and nihilism, they could have like helped each other through it a little better. Like that would have been sick, but
they didn't live long enough to get to the mental health stage of being. But
Jay-Z, like, I'm sorry I was mean to women, now that I have a daughter, like that whole thing.
You don't get to see them on the other side. I saw there was a person. It was a tweet, and it was a Jay-Z. He was in like some kind of like.
Was it a person or a tweet?
No, someone tweeted out this video of Jay-Z. He was like in a walking club, like walking around some neighborhood, and somebody was like, "Oh, Jay-Z, blah 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 blah," and then somebody replied to it and was like, "Jay-Z is 54. He's doing what 54-year-olds do." Like, Biggie didn't get to that stage. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a huge tragedy. He never even got to get jerked by Puff. That's a bad boy tradition.
Well,
come on.
Maybe.
Let's pivot.
Phrasing. Yeah, probably what I could have used a different word, but hey,
Jerks. All right. Well, all right. Look, we
can't not.
We on the podcast do not condone the actions of Diddy, aka Puff, aka Love. Anyways,
alleged acts. I don't want to get you.
Yeah,
sued.
alleged acts. Yeah,
alleged acts.
Alleged acts that I'm pretty sure happened. Like, yeah. Let's talk about the thematic territory of Ready to Die. What are your thoughts on thematic territory?
I think it was beautifully done. We can say whatever we want about Puff, but Puff had a crazy vision, and Big was able to somehow put this all together with the help of Puff. And I don't feel like Big probably would have thought to make this album so conceptual. Like when we talk about like hip hop storytelling, I feel like people always go to like Nas and obviously Slick Rick, but almost probably half, or if not more, of Ready to Die is just like storytelling. Talking from different perspectives. Him and himself on Give Me the Loot, going on a rampage, robbing people. It's just a bunch of stories. Suicidal thoughts is like he's just like telling these different stories. Me and my bitch. It's like they're all just like stories. And I don't know. It's a tragedy, but it was a smart idea. It just pains me that he was writing his own ending without knowing that he was writing his own ending. But as far as a concept, it was masterfully done, from just that beginning intro, taking you through like, oh, he's been born. Oh, his father's leaving. Oh, his mother can't handle him. He's grown now. He's doing his own thing. And then just going into like the actual album, living that all the way through that process, talking to girls, talking about selling drugs, robbing people, all that good stuff. all that good stuff. And you know, I mean, obviously ended it with suicidal thoughts, like I can't handle all of this stuff that has been happening in my life, and I just want to end it because I'm sad. But it was masterfully done. It was a great, beautiful movie.
And yeah, ending it on suicidal thoughts, but this album also being like a kind of a rags to riches piece, where I feel like a lot of it is celebrating the fact that he's overcome some of these things, like, you know, young high school dropout, drug dealer, never had shit, never gonna be shit. What'd he say on he said, "Doctor slapped me on the ass, said he's gonna be a bad boy." Like this kind of this predetermination and kind of having to wear Ready to Die, like the idea as like an armor based on like the upbringing, but kind of superseding that in this bad boy era and being able to be Big Papa and just have fun in the juicies, you know. So I think there's a little bit of that going on too in this album, just like being able to celebrate that that's not the experience anymore.
I think there's that for sure, but there's also the fact that the money and the riches haven't cured that paranoia, that sadness, those suicidal thoughts. Like, I really love the transition from Juicy to the struggle of just like, you know, like, hey, I fixed my mom's situation. My mom's proud of me. And then the next song's like, my mom hates me. You know, it's just like this, like pretty fast. Yeah. And like, the fact that Juicy and the struggle have Diddy kind of like doing his mumbles throughout the track, so they feel linked together. Like Diddy's like, yeah, the song, you know, like he's just kind of like, the song's playing, Biggie's rapping, pretty cool, yeah. It's just like, but like both songs have it, and they feel very like linked. It feels like a BoJack Horseman episode of just like, I can't run away from, you know, my past, even though he's also like, I think he has a lot of contempt and love from where he comes from, like both New York, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, but also his mother. Like, I think like it's very much a critique of capitalism without like having the vocabulary, having just like by storytelling the way he does, and storytelling in the way he paints pictures of his environment, of what he sees, of what he experiences, or heightening what he's gone through, or either it's autobiographical and that happened, or he's writing semi-autobiographical stories that are heightened and like they kind of tell this story anyways. So.
Yeah. And they feel so real, and that's why even going to like Life After Death, there's that the story to tell. Everybody's assumed it was true. We don't know. We'll never know if it's true or not, but everybody always assumes it's true because it's been like, oh yeah, Biggie told this story. This is real. This is like real life. And also, you have to I have to remind myself as well that when you're listening to some of this stuff, there was no like Wikipedia. Rap was still a baby at that point, and drug rap was a super baby at this point. So like a lot of the stuff that he's talking about, there was no reference point. Like, you know, like now I feel like anybody can be like, oh, I got the paddock on my wrist. Like, you don't have to know what that means. Like, it's like, oh, the rapper said this thing, or I got the lean, and like, you have to have experienced that to be able to know that that's something that you should be talking about if you want to be a popular rapper. When Biggie,
he's like creating the wave.
He's creating the wave. Like a lot of this stuff, you know, just like the vivid drug details, he's talking to a specific person and a specific experience that not a lot of people had experienced at that point.
Yeah, because like also the way he's talking about wanting to die, like, or putting himself in near death situations where he might die. There's a quality of, he hasn't seen the Kanyes or like the Jay-Z's before him. Like, he like all those artists came after him, so like he doesn't see what it's like to live past that. And so it's just like what he's seen is poverty and, you know, just like people killing each other and like, you know, being shot by police and stuff. That's what he's seen. So that's what he projects into the future in a way.
Yeah.
And which is why it's so cool that he was able to, one, create a wave, but also pave the way for the artist to create aspirational figures in a way.
Absolutely, because like there was no, I don't want to say no, you know, obviously there was MC Hammer, his famous story about going broke, but you know, you could go broke at that point. Like there was no like, oh, I've made it and I'm a rapper and I'm a billionaire now and now I'm just good forever. I'm set for life. You know, he didn't make it to the bling 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 era. Like he was gone. So he didn't even see the other side almost at all. Like he barely got to touch some of that stuff where Puff was like spending, you know, $1 million on a music video. Like he was in Hypnotize. I think Hypnotize might have been the only one that, because like all that other stuff, he wasn't Mo Money, Mo Problems and all those. He was already gone. So yeah, he never got to see the other side. You know, and some of the fruits of his labor, some of the stuff that he was putting in that helped other people get to that next point.
Yeah, because what's more flashier than that Hypnotized video? I know we're not talking about life after death, but that's really like a predecessor to everything that came after that. Even thinking about some of the Jay-Z stuff, like him having that diamond, you know, earring and just like, the flashiness of it all. Him with the Gucci shades and the
Versace shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was right on the precipice. He was right there.
Any other thematic territory we want to kind of get into before we talk about some songs?
I'm ready to talk about some songs.
All right,
let's do the songs.
Yeah, let's do some songs. Let's get into some highlight songs right after this quick break. Click. All right, and we're back here to talk about Biggie Smalls. Can y'all hear me? Like, is it all good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're back to talk about Biggie Smalls. Let's start with some highlight songs. Kevin, what is a highlight song from this album?
All of them. I'm joking. For me, "Give Me the Loot" is a super highlight.
Yeah.
Just the I just in particular love when rappers go back and forth, and then Biggie just going back and forth with himself is brilliant. I absolutely love it. "Give Me the Loot" is one of my big highlights on this album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey bitch, give me your money, bitch. I used to like that's something not for nothing. I used to just like say that line. That's one of those ones just you walking around cleaning. It just comes to that song is so good.
Yeah. Biggie is like that. He has those little sayings that make you want to continue to say them long after the song has ended.
Yeah. Mine's like, bomb, have a nice dream. Like that one is like king of onomatopoeia is this guy. Like he's like so good at like, he's a great storyteller because the stories he tells are pretty simple. Like it's like, like me and my girl were arguing a lot and then, you know, some people killed her instead of me, and that sucked. Or like, you know, me and this other guy robbed a bank together, and like, the police came, and then, you know, we had a standoff. Like, it's a pretty simple story.
Yeah.
But the
just
way
like kind of slice of life, just like elongating the slice of life.
Yeah. It's like, but yeah, it's like the way I didn't know it was a voice. Like, I know, like, that's the gimmick. Like, I know that's, like, the gimmick of the song. I didn't know it was a voice until, like, the third or fourth listen. When I looked it up.
That happens, though. You're not the first person that I've heard say that about this song. And it just strikes me because it's, like, that just shows how convincing and how, like, artistic and I don't know, vocally dexterous because he is.
His voice is so distinctive, and then the fact that it convincingly does another voice, I'm like, whoa! I didn't think you had that in you. Like, I didn't think of that. You know.
Then the thing I wanted to add was that, before I add that thing, I'll say when Puff was working with Big, But before he started working with him, Big was like Yelly Big. That's what he would refer to him as, Yelly, because he'd be like, bomb, have a nice drink. You know, he'd be like doing that high register thing, like, or the party and bullshit, like he'd be screaming. And then Puff had to work with him, like, hey, we're gonna make a song for the girls, like Big Papa, and we're gonna smooth this out. We need you to like calm it down. So I feel like Gimme the Loot probably came somewhere in that realm where he was just trying to figure out, like, oh yeah, I can sound like this, but then I can, sound like this and, bring it here. And I love a good rapper rapping against himself. Nas did this also on Streets Disciples, and I had no idea that was Nas because he did like a voice modulator. So it was hard to tell that it was actually Nas rapping it. But, a rapper rapping against himself, rappers going back and forth with another rapper, you just can't beat it. Gimme the Loot is the ultimate highlight for this album. My next big highlight is The What with Method Man. I absolutely love that. Going back to, since we were talking about rappers going back and forth, I love The What. They just go back together so seamlessly. There's no disruption in their bars. You can tell, and this is a thing that you don't get now, but you can tell they were in the studio together when they made that. Mm-hmm. They saw each other. They looked at each other in the face. It's like, oh, I'm going to beat you. Let me see. You put your next thing down. All right, I'm going to put my next thing down. We're just trying to best each other and just bring the best out of each other. And I absolutely love that song. That was a highlight when I first heard the album. I was like, whoa, I had no idea that even existed. I had no clue that Biggie had any songs with Wu-Tang members.
Yeah, I've never been like the person to listen to a ton of like solo Method Man, but every single appearance from Method Man in this era is like more than welcome. I want to hear him on the track because he stands toe to toe with Biggie and Pac and all of these guys. I like The What a lot too, just for the sheer hip hop spirit of them trading those bars.
Yeah. I like the Biggie going M-E and Method Man going T-H-O-D. Yeah. Like that is like, it's also like they're competing with each other and all this stuff, but they're also like tag teaming each other and like they're working towards a common goal also.
Yeah, you can feel it. Going back to Gimme the Loot, there was a point that I wanted to make about Gimme the Loot. Because there's a few points. Actually, maybe I should say this for lowlights. I will save it for lowlights. Never mind. Scratch what I just said. We will proceed. Who has another song they want to talk about?
I want to throw a nod to the title track, Ready to Die. There are a lot of these, and here I go, Mr. Talk about the production, but I just love tracks like this and Everyday Struggle, where it has kind of this, it sounds like Pete Rock produced it. It's Easy not. It's Easy Mo. But honestly, I think I read something about Pete Rock wanting like to sue them or something because he like didn't get credited on some of this production work. But it's just like the smoothest sounding beats. And I think like his flow on this, and particularly Everyday Struggle, just fit so perfectly together, and just like this laid back characteristics. But I also, as I don't know, for better or for worse, I like understand where he's going with the song Ready to Die, and just like the idea of using that phrase as its own armor. And I don't have a ton to say about that, but I feel like that's kind of a profound place to kind of end up when you've had the life that you have. It's like, okay, no matter what's outside my door, I'm just going to tackle the day. And, you know, we talking about guns and all that stuff. Yeah. You got to stay prepared. But Ready to Die is one that I just really like a lot. It's a little bit of morbidity there, but also just a very smooth and just great track.
I'm ready to die and nobody can save me. That is very morbid. Like, I know there's nothing that can change my life. I am headed to an ending, and I'm just gonna ride it until it gets there.
But I think like the thing that's kind of wild about this album is he kind of makes it look and sound cool and with bravado. Absolutely. This idea of like the suicidal ideations are like very like the song the song Everyday Struggle, where he has that chorus about wanting to die and like wanting to kill himself and such. Like
Another day, another struggle.
yeah, like I think like more I think anyone who thinks like suicide is for cowards should like listen to some more Biggie and like maybe have some like
Man up and get suicidal, goddammit. Man up and get
but it's like it's so
I got you.
brave to like
Yeah.
obviously there's some armor, but it's very brave, especially at this time, to talk about
Absolutely.
suicidal
Brave
thoughts and
extremely vulnerable. Yeah, like no one was talking. This is not a topic that was broached. This topic barely was getting broached through the 2000s.
All it took was logic to, bring us
Yeah,
to the subject.
And give us a phone number to call in case you're having those kind of thoughts. But yeah, super brave and super extremely vulnerable, especially for 1994. Like,
yeah. But also like this is very serious subject matter, but it's also like the song you were talking about. What was it? Ready to Die? Yeah. Like he has that line, I got technique dripping out my butt cheeks. I sleep on my stomach so I don't fuck up my sheets. Like he's like funny. He's also funny and he's oozing with charisma.
Yeah,
Like,
charisma.
especially like he's also got technique oozing out of his butt cheeks, but he's got charisma oozing out of his
more things oozing.
more
more
ooze
ooze.
involved.
This is the real secret of the ooze.
Yeah.
But Big, no, he was so special because of that, and that confidence is what I feel like. Obviously, he knows he was ugly. He talks about it on so many songs. But ladies loved Big. Like so many women loved Big, and he was not conventionally attractive at all. But it was the confidence. It was the confidence, the silliness, the playfulness. You can tell that he was just a warm person to be around, just outside of the music and the darkness that was in the music. But if you knew him, he'd probably be one of your best friends if you knew him. He just seemed like a good dude.
I think like this is like not a fully developed take, but a take I'm kind of like workshopping with this type of era of hip hop. I'm thinking like this is like the golden era of television in the 90s of like, like Breaking Bad and like all those like anti-hero shows, Mad Men and BoJack and all those shows. Like all of TV and the media was like this like false positivity projected of like this is what a family is like. It's super positive and we're all like like Cosby Show and like all like I know like that was like counteracting like the negativity and stuff like that. But like the Cosby Show and like this like Family
by Step, Family Matters.
Yeah, all those shows like
Perfect
and
Strangers.
then this like reflected people's realities in a way and like the complexity and the darkness of like and like Big he's portraying himself as not a good guy in this. Like he's like hitting women and like making jokes about Ike and Tina Turner and stuff like that. And like you kind of like I don't forgive it per se, but I kind of like look at it as like, well, what do you expect? He's a bad guy. He's like a bad
this
guy.
is what I'm supposed to do. I'm Tony
like,
Soprano. I'm literally Tony Soprano.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're looking into those mafiosos and then, but also using poetry as a medium and conveying your full self on record, you're gonna get those like aspects of who he is, and just thinking about this being that golden era. I mean, it had to evolve from somewhere. It had to evolve from just walk to the park and it was dark.
Right.
And, like you can't just have the party all the time, and
because the album starts with Rapper's Delight and then like it like
exactly.
Yeah, it's so brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, you hear it. There's some Doggy Style is in that. Intro.
We got to talk about it, right? We're not gonna gleam over the aspirational West Coastness of Ready to Die, like all like the samples. There's so much production that sounds like, and on the Tupac episode, I feel like Justin talked about that a lot, but I hadn't listened to this album in so long. But I'm listening to it now. It's like, oh, this this motherfucker wanted to be on death row. Like,
Absolutely.
he just happened to be in New York City.
That's another thing with the whole Tupac Biggie thing. I feel like Tupac was living the life that Biggie may have wanted to live because Pac was from New York. I did a research paper on Pac when I was in college. Like, Pac, people think of Pac as like a West Coast artist.
He's from New York, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't move to Oakland until he was 17. Like, he spent the vast majority of his life in New York. So, you know, Biggie probably saw a little piece of that and being like, oh man, you know, that's cool. And we see throughout Biggie's career, it was however short-lived it was, he did love California. I mean, he made a song about it. He's going back to Cali. He was hyped about it. That's literally where he died. His life ended there.
And things done changed. I know we're talking about highlights and stuff, but I just want to nod to that song because it has the Dr. Dre sample. It literally sounds like it should have been on The Chronic. It was just left off, or they didn't make the connection yet. The West Coastness of this album is interesting.
Yeah, Things That Change is definitely a huge highlight.
Huge highlight, yeah.
And then I want to say also that there's still that boom bapness to this album that I don't think Biggie gets credit for being like a boom bap artist, but this is a boom bap album. Like all that Easy Mo Bee sound is a boom bap sound, and like the DJ Premier track, they evolved from that. Obviously, by the time Life After Death came around, but this is a boom bap album. Like, this is how beat sounded in the early to mid 90s. And he had one foot within the old school and how rap sounded, and then he was also pushing forward on brand new sounds and themes that people were not talking about. I can assume that people weren't talking about. Obviously, I haven't heard every album from 1994, but
You didn't download those albums in college, you didn't have a couple more hours to spare.
Tupac put out a lot of albums. I had a lot to get through. And
iPods only had 16 or 8 gigs. So
oh man, yeah.
I got a paper to write. I
have other stuff to do. Like, I can't just focus all of my time into this music, but I'm trying. Especially, and there was new music coming out then too, because I was a huge Kanye stan back then. Anyway.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Okay, so look, this is an album with Diddy and like an R. Kelly sample, and like we can't add him into this right now. We can't do that today. Like, I mentioned the Cosby Show. We can't.
Yeah, you're going crazy.
Yeah, but like I think Things Done changes my highlight. Really quickly before I get into that, like I will say, like it still sounds mostly East Coasty though. Like it sounds like you're talking about with the scratches and the boom bap stuff. Like it sounds, but I like that it's like kind of there's a joyousness and a party quality to this album too. But Things Done Change is like my super my highlight. If we're talking production, the one moment where he's like, getting smoke, believe me, like, and the drum beat accentuating that moment in the first verse, like that's as good as like any modern hip hop production moment. Like that's as good as anything like these great like producers have made. Like that is like, so it just like gets me going every time. And
I love those little moments like that too, because it's like you were doing that, like just how involved making a beat was back then versus how easy it is now. It's just crazy. Like some of the stuff that DJ Premier was doing, you had to physically do that. Like I had to go find this record. I had to scratch it myself. I was scratching this.
You had to drop the needle at the right point to get the sample and load it onto the MPC.
And get the tape and tape the shit to get, like that's nuts. Like that they were able to do some of the stuff that they did and get some of the sounds. Unbelievable. As far as beats go, Unbelievable is like top of the top. I mean, that's real hip hop right there, as they would say. That's real hip hop, Shane.
Yeah, for Unbelievable, I wrote one of the most time-tested beats of all time that kind of, when you're weaving the tapestry of hip hop, this is right in the middle.
Yes, absolutely. Because if somebody just jumped, like if, I don't know, Kendrick just jumped on Unbelievable, everybody would be like, oh, like it'd be cool. Like it would be cool, like, yeah. It would be like, oh, this is weird. Like, what is this old ass sounding beat? Like it's It just Chef Kiss. Shout out to Primo.
The thing is,
Truly.
my take on that song is it's an R. Kelly sample. So like that, like there's like a gross part of it, but he changes it up to make it sound like Michael Jackson. So that's a little better. That's a little. I know they're like the allegations are both really bad, but like Michael Jackson's a little more palatable than R. Kelly. So like, it's really great. It's such a great beat though. I love it. It's the scratches especially.
But some of those moments like that, and just like so much of the Puff involvement in 2024, like specifically this year. I know there were allegations prior to this year, but everything hit the fan this year. It's like, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of Puff saying "take that" and all that kind of stuff.
He like talks over so much of the songs.
But
if we're gonna go to lowlights, I have this down. This is one of my lowlights of the album. There's so much Puff talking. It's almost like you have other friends. Where was Lil C's? Lil C's couldn't say a few words. It's like, fuck, man. There's so much Puff talking.
Yeah, it used to knock though. I don't know. There's a part of me that feel like we wanted to hear Puff on the track like a little bit. I know Suge took the dig at him at the Source Awards, but there's an element of before we knew who this person was, it just kind of added to the kind of overall bad boy offering, so to speak.
Sure.
You know,
he was a part of it.
Exactly. So I feel like, at least if I transport myself at like 10 years ago, I don't think I would have thought twice. I would be like, yeah, just doing the Puff ad libs. Now I'm like, I
don't think, but I don't know. I'm weird and I'm also old, so I don't hear it negatively. Like when I listen to the album and I heard Puff so much on it, I'm not hearing it and be like, oh, this is gross, this is disgusting. It's more so like, fuck, why is Puff on every fucking song? Like, he doesn't have to be. We didn't need Puff here. We didn't need Puff. More so like just as a actual critique, more so than the critique of Puff himself.
Sure.
Which I I'm not necessarily thinking about like, oh man, he probably went home and did something crazy after this, but like I'm just thinking like, why is Puff here? Like there was other people, you could use some other voices. Like
he's the doctor at the beginning. Like why is he that?
He's his friend on the phone.
He's a robber. Hey, you got a dot on your head too.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
He's on Me and My Bitch. He's talking to the girl. He's like that person and that like he's. All throughout the house, it's like use someone else, tag someone else in. I just feel like it was too much. But like any artist, I don't think anybody should do it. Like, I don't care if it was Pharrell or Timbaland. Like, one person doesn't need to be on an album that much.
Those artists also have like a lot, like when they kind of like hop, like they produce a song, but they're not on it. Like they have a lighter touch with like the vocal inclusions. You know, they're just like, hey, it's me, Pharrell. He sings the chorus and he like fucks off, and like he's not like, yeah, I'm Pharrell. Look at me.
Yeah.
Remember me earlier? Oh, Biggie's doing it. Yeah. Like,
Puff is on Ready to Die more than DJ Khaled is on any of his albums.
Yeah.
That's real.
Oh, that's no. He's like he was gifted Bob Marley's guitar. He's all right. Like I was gonna.
Like I'm not getting on this.
He's
song.
too busy learning how to play it to hop on.
DJ, bling bling bling.
This one goes out to Bob.
Yes. Anyways, okay, like one quick Puffy tangent is like when you look at like obviously you were talking about that, and then you're talking like when you look at I was looking at like Notorious B.I.G. music videos, and all 3/4 of them have like Puffy, like Diddy, like next to Big, or just like Diddy's face, like there's like obviously I don't know, but like it seems like there's like some like validity to the conspiracy theories, like, oh, he sacrificed Biggie or whatever, like, but like it seems like he used Biggie to like catapult his career, like
at the very least.
Yeah,
like there's no when you look back, it's like there's no reason why he should have been in
he's just
any
like
of that as
everywhere,
much as he was.
Should have been behind the scenes a lot more than he was. But like there's always that story, not always, but there's that story where Big goes to Puff and was like, "Hey, you want to be a rapper, right? Like you want to do this. Like I could tell that you want to do this. Like I'm gonna write you raps and let you be able to do this." Because he could. And it's very obvious going back and looking now, and you hear him. There's, like you said, there's literally no reason for him to be on this album as much as he is, or there's no reason for him to be in the music videos as much as he is. Like even with like Dame Dash, he was in Jay-Z's videos, but it wasn't as overwhelming a presence as like he was like always right
playing
next
like
to
a
Big.
side character.
Yeah, like Dame is in
somewhere.
the bag dancing and like he got the bottles or something, but he's in his own scene. Like Puff is like, I'm right next to you. We're together in this. We are partners.
It's like the idea of like the best man, like the groom mysteriously dies and like the best man is also in the suit. He's like next to well, I guess I'll marry this guy.
He's we're already here.
Yeah.
I'm in a suit.
Yeah. Yeah, brother. Okay,
Pay for 25 dinners.
That's enough of him. He's disgusting. Anyways, enough of talking about him. Highlight, things done change. Obviously, the line like my mother got cancer in the breast. Don't ask me why I'm motherfucking stressed is such a mic drop final line. Like again, making vulnerability like tough and strength and like bravado. Like the way he like paints a picture of his environment. The idea that like looking back, things weren't great, but they're better than they are now. And like, there's still pockets of joy and color. And now it's this dog eat dog, crabs in a bucket world. And poverty is corroded joy and like the will to live. And I can't even like rely on my mother anymore. Like I don't know where my next meal is coming from. Nostalgia is a privilege Biggie can't afford. It's like really, and like there's not a lot of comfort there either. Like truly, at the end of the day, and it's just so like, it's such a great intro song. It's such a great like, here's who I am. Like someone who's never heard of him before. Here's who I am. Here's what I can do. Here are my strengths. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I got another highlight.
Yeah, go ahead.
Having Diana King, the Diana King feature.
Oh yeah,
Where's that
tore
one?
that up.
It's on Respect. Respect.
Oh, that's so sick. Yeah.
One thing that people don't realize is that Biggie is Jamaican. Like, but you don't really connect those two. He didn't live long enough to connect those two. Like, we didn't know that Busta Rhymes was Jamaican until like way later, and now he does all his things with his patois and whatnot. But it's like you don't connect those dots because like a New York street rapper thing was not doing patois and whatnot. But yeah, shout out to Diana King of Shy Guy fame. You know Shy Guy, right? I want a Shy Guy. He
wears that mask and like he wears that mask and wears red, like that red robe. For Mario.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
If I'm pimping on the F with weed on my breath, it just reminds me of New York. I want to be back in New York so bad. Just ride the F train from Bed-Stuy to downtown.
But yeah, so shout out, respect to Big for showing a little bit of his roots.
That's so cool.
Respect by putting Diana King on there of Shy Guy fame. Also used in Bad Boys. We did speak about Bad Boys. It was in the first one. I think it was just on the soundtrack. And another highlight is, just as a societal point, is Biggie was way ahead of his time as far as being against football. He said on Respect, he said, "Fuck a football team risking a ruptured spleen by the age of 16."
whoa.
Way ahead of his time.
Insightful there.
Yeah. This is 1994. He was like, this football thing, I don't know if you should be doing that. Like,
Tell the truth.
yeah, tell the
Concussion.
truth.
Yeah, like Will Smith in Concussion.
Yeah, tell the truth.
I'm not gonna do the Jamaican accent. I'm not gonna do his accent like that. Yeah. Oh, Also, little fun fact: Bob Marley, Jamaican. Also, very interesting.
Yeah.
What?
Like,
No
the guy
way.
who like
And all of
gave
his
the
kids.
guitar to DJ Khaled.
Crazy.
He's Jamaican.
Fun fact.
John, another highlight. You got one?
I mean, I feel like I lumped Everyday Struggle in with Ready to Die, so I definitely want to say, just like underscore that is one of my highlights, but I'm going to move on. I think we got to talk about Juicy, just for the kind of iconicness and the kind of vibe shift in tonally on the album, at least for a little bit, and you know, just having like the R&B chorus from Total, and just, you know, spread love, it's the Brooklyn way, talking about like the Biggie t-shirts and posters, spread love, it's the Brooklyn way is like the most gentrified maybe lyric from this album that is probably screen printed on every t-shirt at every market in Williamsburg or whatever. But I still think Juicy is just such a feel-good song on this album. And I mean, yeah, how can it not be?
Days was the worst days. Now we sip champagne when we're thirsty.
Oh,
I'm growing up like I thought I would. Call the same number, same hood. It's all good.
So,
You know, just trying to celebrate and enjoy a little bit of this tepid life. You know, it also just has that kind of feeling, not quite do the right thing, but you can kind of feel the warmth. You can feel just everybody outside. It feels like a block party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to Juicy.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a feel-good song.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, like I think he's the happiest and most optimistic and joyful when he's talking about rap and talking about music and this new like kind of second life he's been given in a way of like, oh, I was supposed to die selling drugs, but you know, I was able to like extend my life and enjoy some nice things with my talents, you know, with my ability. I think that's you know, really sick. He also he bit the line, "If you don't know, now you know," from Thomas Jefferson. Shake my head.
More bad people.
Thomas Jefferson was before Biggie Smalls, okay? You know?
Just by a little bit.
Yeah, shout out to David, John's pal. Right?
Pseudo.
Yeah.
hit me up, David. I'm still out here.
Yeah. Anyways, that's my thoughts on Juicy.
All right. Well, I want to speak to another vibe shift, which was Big Papa. A complete vibe shift, because there's nothing else on the album that even sounds remotely like it, because we didn't get the One More Chance thing, which we will talk about later. But yeah, Big Papa, a timeless classic. Also a cassette that my mom had that we used to listen to in the old car. And that was such a fun time because it had the instrumental on there. I was like, oh, this is different. Like, you
also
know.
Pretty West Coast.
Yeah,
That's
it
beats,
is.
Pretty
And
West Coast.
It was also just a sample that a lot of West Coast artists have used. So it's just like it kind
Isley
of
Brothers.
Yeah, it kind of just like binds it together.
Mm-hmm.
That song's so luxurious. It's just like everybody's hopping out the Suburbans and the Expeditions and just all done up, and the gas guzzling vehicles, and just everybody's out for the vibes. Like, don't shoot up the place. It's not time for that. Tonight's just like tonight is the riches of the rags to riches. We're living it up for at least a tiny moment.
Yeah, and the song also has the classic T-bone steak, cheese, eggs, and Welch's grape line on it. So shout out to an iconic meal.
Shout out food real quick. Shout out food.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite pieces of art was somebody made a art piece of that, and it's one of those things when you see it, you like, oh, Biggie. Because like it's I don't know how Biggie managed to do that. but because those are just pretty generic things. You just see like, oh, there's eggs, a steak, and Welch's grape. Oh, the Biggie. It's one of those things. Like when you see it, it's just like, oh, just snaps you right to to Big. So it's just very cool that he was able to get so vivid with the visual of the meal that when you see the meal itself, it automatically brings you back, even though it's pretty generic. It's not like he was talking about, oh, we had freaking escargot, some crazy specific, some crazy thing. It was like, oh yeah, cheese, eggs, and steak and grape juice.
That was like luxurious for him. That was like, like for him, it sounds like pretty nice. I just want to shout out some just moments I really love. Let's see.
What you got?
I love the line, in Machine Gun Funk. Maybe I'm like completely like tripping here, but it sounds like in the rhyme for the jackers, the jealous ass crackers, in the woo 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 woo, like the siren, and then I'll make you prove that it's bulletproof. Like the siren, he rhymes the siren with prove that it's bulletproof. Because the sirens go woo woo woo, and it's like. It sounds like ooh, it makes an ooh sound, and then he proved that it's bulletproof because like no other line makes that work. And then the creative tool of having the siren represent police. What do you think? What are you guys say?
I got a fun fact for you. In that he says blue suits. That was the actual original line there. Because he was talking about cops, and they wanted to blur it out so we wouldn't know that he was talking about cops. I mean, we know that he was talking about cops, but they wanted it to be like, I guess, too heavy-handed. But the siren, like you were saying, it was a perfect thing. Because sometimes, they would put it backwards or whatever, or do some other little scratches or something. But I felt like that was like a perfect overlay. And they definitely did not do that on every one, especially in the 90s. But yeah, I thought that was a perfect overlay. I love that one too.
The line... big bang boots from the Bronx to Bolivia, getting physical like Olivia Newt. So like, like rhyming boots with Newts, and then Olivia with Bolivia. It like he kind of like does a flip where like the boots rhymes with Newt, and like Newt is at the end, but like boots is before Bolivia. So it's like he's right, like the internal rhymes is more creative than bubba 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 shoes bubba 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 news. Just like the internal line. It's just like clean as mean as penis makes me laugh. Like it's like. I don't know what song it was, but there's one part where he brings up the Mac in the back in the Acura, which is a line that I always attribute to Pun. But it's a famous line. I feel like it always like comes up, but I got the Mac in the back of the Acura. I've heard Eminem say that. I've heard a bunch of rappers say that, but I heard him say it on this album, and it never really stuck out to me until I listened to it today. But I was like, oh, hey, that's like one of the famous hip hop lines, and I don't know if Pun just, I mean, a lot of people took stuff from this album, like Jay-Z. There was a whole thing about Jay-Z, he's like, I'm always showing love to. Now, who the hell is this calling me at 11:46? That one. Yeah, I think you. What was that?
When you do a thumbs up,
the coal. He hits that so.
That's so sick. Yeah,
it's paging me, and why? Another story.
Yeah, that's one of the best openers across the entire project. I'd say is on the Warning.
Yeah, for sure.
Warning's a sick song. There's a few instances of like the tweet, like two dumb bitches telling each other exactly, so like at the end of Warning, like the two dumb bitches and like just like trying to rob Biggie, and like Give Me the Lose, like two dumb bitches like agreeing with each other. Like there's no conflict with them. They're like, yeah, we should do that. Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
This makes me laugh. Let's go through lowlights very quickly, and then like let's go through some reservations if we have any. Any lowlights besides Puff, like just like interjecting himself into the album.
Yeah, so much Puff. Oh,
Go for it. Go for it, Kevin.
Let me go. Okay. For me, even though I do love the intro and I think that it was great to have it to set the context at the table, I hate a long ass intro.
It's a long intro, yeah.
Yeah, just get me into it. Like an intro, we need like 30 seconds, maybe a minute. That shit was like 3 minutes. Like it's way too long. So that's a low light for me. Next low light I had was so much Puff. There was way too much Puff on the album. And then also blurring out the words. We talked about the Siren one, but there's also on Gimme the Loot, they blur out Strangled on there. But they didn't do it in as fun a way as they did on Machine Gun Funk. There was 2 sex interludes, Fuck Me interlude, and another one. I think it was on Respect.
End of Respect, yeah, getting 100% fellaced on the end of the track.
That's too much. Yeah.
There's no good place to listen to that. You know, like I don't want to listen to it on my headphones. I'm not driving in the car. I'm not playing that one. You listen with a friend. Like I'm skipping. There's no good place to listen to that.
I mean, at least the
and an Eyes Wide Shut
kind
party,
of funny, right? Like a little funny.
It's fun. No, it's definitely funny with the Lil Kim doing the you fat motherfucker.
Chicken.
That one's kind of fun. Yeah,
pickle juice drinking.
Yeah. And that shows a little bit of his warmth. That shows a little bit of just like a lighter moment of him, like from a very serious album.
For sure. Like
at the very least,
as involved as like when on Life After Death, he like does the sex thing. He tells a story, but is a joke. He's telling a joke like he was like doing stand up. He hadn't evolved to that point yet on this album, but he does get to that point where instead of just using the sex as the sounds, he just told the sex story. It was a nasty story, but there was a punchline at the end that really brought it all around. So yeah, too much sex interludes. Get those out of here. It has to be talked about. Is the elephant in the room. You look so good. I'll suck on your daddy's dick. The wildest line in hip hop history. I don't know why he said that. I get it. He's playful. He's funny. He's a good dude. That was flagrant. Like that was crazy. Like that was nuts. Like even back then, that was nuts. Like that's a huge pause. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where.
Oedipus Ghost wrote that line.
He's like, where was he trying to take us with that? I don't understand. Where were you trying to?
So horny. He wants her so bad that he'll do that for her.
It's like if there's a barrier to entry here, I'm down for all of them.
Whatever you got.
But also, like, it sounds like he really wants to do that because, like, why bring it up? I'll suck your dad's dick. Yeah.
Like what? We were talking about where we want to eat tonight. What are you saying right now? And then my last low light is that it's just the 20 CB sounding ass album. 20 CB is a phrase that it gets used a lot on this podcast I listen to. Shout out to Cinephobe. And it just means it's like, 20th century, like old school, because there's so much like phone calls and voicemails and beeps, and it's like oh my god, this is just like such a 20 CB.
It's like the timestamp of all of that old tech.
Yeah. Like on the Suicidal Thoughts, it hangs up and it's like, oh, if you would like to complete this call, oh, I haven't heard this.
I don't mind that. I like he like brings up the year that it's being recorded so many times, and it feels very specific and like a stamp of the moment. I don't mind it, and like some of that is like fun in a Eminem-y sort of way, like the sound effects and such.
Well, I'd say it more so from the point where it's a timeless album. It always is going to sound good, but at the same time, it puts you back to where it actually came from, because like the further we get away from it. When I first listened to the album, we probably still had a house phone when I first listened to the album. So it wasn't as jarring hearing it in 2005 as it was hearing it in 2024, where it's like, oh, damn, another phone call is happening. Oh, a voicemail. It's like, oh, here we go. A string of voicemails. Somebody listened to their tiny cassette tape and running through all the voicemails that I left on there. But because otherwise it's a pretty timeless album. Like there's not that many other timestamps specifically on the album outside of that. Like he's not talking about like I'm on my Motorola flip phone. I got the like you're not really like saying specific things that are I'm driving my Toyota Tercel or like things that just don't exist anymore. Like, there's not that much of it on the album, honestly. Besides, like, I smiles when my face is up in the source. Like, outside of that, like, it's not that much. It's pretty timeless. This could have come out at any point. But those are my lowlights. What else? What y'all got?
I have one song that I think docks this from being a 10 out of 10, and I wonder if you all can guess which song that is.
Ooh.
One song.
It's
Is it Friend of Mine?
Yes it is. Yes, it is. That song, I would honestly say that's a bad song. I think that Friend of Mine is a
how's that one
bad
go?
song.
Like,
You know that they right. It's like every potential influence. It's like this is the fundamental of hip hop gone wrong. Like, we're trying to implement every single orc hit and every single like sample, and like we got a Midnight Marauders bass line going on, and it's just it's like this was probably one of those tracks that got recorded on the fly and just felt overly rushed. I mean, I know I've said before that I like the unorthodox beats and things that kind of, sound very eclectic, but this is too eclectic. It's just the panning, the synth. If you listen to that synth, and it's just going back and forth, and we got the weird keyboard thing. It's I think that Friend of Mine is a bad song. I think the mix is atrocious. If you remove that song from this album, I think it is a 10 out of 10. But that song is on this album, so I've got it out for a friend of mine.
I'm sorry to hear that you don't love A Friend of Mine as much as the rest of us do. I'm assuming that Andrew likes it as well. I mean, it's like one of those songs. It's like,
I don't remember that song very much. Yeah.
It's like if I was ordering the album, I probably wouldn't have put it on there. But like, it's like, I don't mind it. Isn't this the one where he does the in Scarface and Dreams of Killing Me, and it plays a little bit of the womp 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 womp. Like, that's another thing that they added in there. Like,
it sounds like a lot. It sounds like
there's a lot of things. They added
much.
a lot of things. Yeah, they did a lot of things. Putting the Ghetto Boys in
now,
there.
if you compare a friend of mine against What's Your Phone Number, I wonder which one is winning the.
Oh man, yeah, they could have just really deleted What's Your Phone Number. Friend of Mine is better than What's Your Phone Number, because the beat on What's Your Phone Number is like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, it's like completely like
the beat is fine on What's Your Phone Number. It's just like the fact that like 2 minutes are the intro and 2 minutes are the outro of just like some nonsense, like it's not a song.
yeah, that's not
yeah. Oh.
Agreed with that as well. I was never a fan of the that beat, but
yeah.
What
about you, Andrew? What's a low light for you?
Yeah, y'all touched on my main lowlights. I would say, just like to complete my golden age of television metaphor I was trying to come up with, is like obviously all those shows are great. I love Breaking Bad. I love Mad Men. I love all those shows, but they kind of get away with being kind of like indulging in like the male power fantasy and like, being misogynistic without like, while also being a really potent critique of those things. It kind of gets away. Like, it is like, the Ike and Tina Turner bar, I think, is kind of bad. Like, I think it's just like, but like there's a part of me like, what am I supposed to do? Like, tell Tony like Montana like, hey, you shouldn't punch down like that. Who am I? Like, who am I to tell Tony Soprano that? Walter White like, hey, you shouldn't work with Nazis actually, or smell that.
Even more so to that, to your point, is I think the thing that softens it a lot for me is the fact that, like I said, he was 24 when he died. That means when he made this album, he was like 19, 20 years old. Like, right. The things that I would say when I was that age, I would never even consider saying now. Like, there's so many words or phrases. Like, obviously, he didn't get to live on to get to an evolved state or grow up completely.
He didn't get to go to walking club or anything.
Yeah, he didn't get to he didn't get to the walking club. You know what I'm saying? He never got to that. But yeah, he was so young that it probably was like, oh, this is actually funny. Like this is like he probably thought it was like funny to say. Well, I mean, to be fair, with the time period that it was, a lot of people made I Cantina like people were making those jokes like well into the 2000s and 2010s. That was like
socially acceptable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably until what, maybe like 2016 or 17 or something like that. Probably where it's like the cutoff where it's like, wait, maybe we shouldn't be joking about some of these things. Like people were, yeah, that stuff kind of just was around. It's kind of, it was just a part of culture. It was just like a part of it was like a funny thing, especially because it was right off of the Angela Bassett movie. So. Like one day that came out like 91 or 92 or something like that. So that was like, it was very in the zeitgeist at the time. And that's why it's there.
Right.
But there's other things that he says that are great. Like I noticed that they added the Dreams of fucking R&B bitch song. They added it to the end of the remastered version.
Oh yeah, that song is.
Now he literally says some crazy things on there.
That's it's the beat is so good. Like it's so like the. I do prefer the Nicki song over that. Like the Nicki Minaj remix of like Barbie Dreams is a good song.
What do you think about the Kanye one?
I haven't heard it. I haven't heard that one.
Ever heard the Kanye one?
No, I haven't heard that
one. Yeah. Kanye had a nice run where he's just putting out like like a bunch of random songs.
Oh, fun.
Back when I was downloading stuff like movies and anyway.
What's it called? Yeah, so I it's like, see, but you are a very smart, intelligent, emotionally stable human being who's able to like come to that conclusion. Like people who are like maybe their frontal lobe isn't fully developed, like think Walter White or Rick from Rick and Morty is a good guy, like cool dude to emulate or whatever. Yeah. And like the show's telling you, no, like I don't think like Biggie is saying like I'm bad, actually I'm a bad guy. Like kind of like there's some self-loathing in the song, but he's not like making a large statement about. He's just like telling his experiences, and like I think that's his job at this point in his life. You know, I think I don't hold that against him necessarily, but like I think some like impressionable teenager, you know, is gonna like. This is something he'll have to unlearn when he's like 25 or 29 or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but, you know, thinking about a song like Dreams and like Biggie being maybe 19, he's kind of like, we don't have Tinder, so he's kind of like, hey, open for business. You know? And I'm hearing the richest part of the story, so hey, ladies, holla at me.
And it was
he's aiming me high. Yeah, also.
He really is. Sade and Biggie?
Jeez Louise.
I don't know.
It was also attention grabbing. Because it gives people something to, like how 50 Cent had How to Rob. Like, he knew people were going to react to it. Like, it was just something, like, I feel like he just wanted to make something jarring that made people be like, oh, what is this? Like, oh, he talked about me on this? Like, this is way before Eminem or any of these other people.
Yeah, this is like pre-Eminem.
Before Control.
Yeah, this is way before all of that stuff. So it was like, oh, he's talking about me. Like, that's not a thing that was happening. Like, nobody, you might name drop one or two people, but you're not like just like, oh, this whole song is just about everybody else, and it has nothing really to do with me at all.
At least he's kind of nice to Tony Braxton also. Like, what about Tony Braxton? If that bitch give me action, guaranteed satisfaction. That's kind of nice.
He also said something extremely inappropriate about Raven Simone.
Raven Simone, that's awful. Like, that's a rough line. That's no good at all.
That's not great.
That's no good at all. So, okay, yeah, I'm looking at the lyrics right now. I don't know about that at all. Any stray observations, any highlight, any other things you just want to like shout out before we conclude?
I feel like the one thing that I think about, or was thinking about with this album is like, I'm someone who tries not to get caught up in nostalgia a lot too. And it's interesting that like, I don't have the same existential threats as what Biggie is saying here, but listening to this and most recently listening to the Tupac album, I'm like wondering, I'm like having this own journey of like, do I need to open myself up to like revisiting all of this good work more often? It was just such a, joy with, just the experience of experiencing this album. Obviously, it's a heavy album, but just having my own sort of like personal revelation with listening to this album, enjoying it like so much. Like I listened to this album like so many times before this was recorded. And I'm like, why am I not going back? I need to go back more. It's like the contemporary stuff is good and contemporary stuff is fine. We don't need to like only exist in the ready to die period, just be that old head. But I think there's some time and place to revisit these. So I'm trying to create some space for that a little bit
you're in New
more
York City
myself.
on the F train.
Exactly. Bump it.
Yeah.
I thought
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Andrew.
I thought you were gonna say like, like hearing that like Biggie was like had so many threats, I should really open myself to more like danger in my life.
I definitely thought that's where you were going with that as well.
He kept saying 2 texts, so I think I'm gonna go out to the gun store tomorrow.
I gotta meet this guy named Tutex. Like,
he told 2 texts.
He's named that because he has 2 of them. Like,
I heard about what bricks are going for down in Virginia, so.
But like to that point, like to kind of wrap up my like the thing I was saying is like he didn't have the environmental. It's one thing if like some edgy kid from the suburbs says this shit and like, whoa, that's too problematic. You shouldn't say anything like that. You should know a little better. But it's like one thing to tell, like if I was like around and I told him like, hey, maybe you shouldn't make those jokes. He's like, I don't know where my next meal is going to be. So you can't tell me shit, So it's like part of it's like fixing the circumstances and the environment. Like, let's do that first. Like, that's what we're talking about with the Pac episode about like C. Dolores Tucker of like, why is she railing against these like rap artists when you understand the circumstances and the problems they come from and you're critiquing their language, you're critiquing that. You're not actually solving the root cause of these difficult problems. Like, so yeah, I think there's that to consider also, when we look at this album and go like, oh, this is more problematic than I remember, something like that,
like, that's for like goofy people to say shit like that. Like, it's just of a time, and maybe I'm quote unquote privileged because I lived through the 90s and I remember how it was and the jokes that would be on.
You're very privileged living through the 90s.
I'm at an age that's so strange because I lived in a world and I understood a world that the internet just didn't exist in. And if you're born in 1998. You've only known the internet. This is like the I Can Tina Turner thing, for example. That's like a joke that Martin could have told on his show, or like that could have been on Fresh Prince or anything like that. Like that's just like how the zeitgeist was at the time. Like that was like, oh, this is in the news or whatever. Like there was mad OJ jokes and jokes about Michael Jackson and jokes.
Shrek had an OJ
joke also. Yeah, it was just like people just talk about pop culture-y things or Eddie Murphy. People talking about like Eddie Murphy with the prostitute situation. Sure. Like
people, like pop stars' virginities. Yeah. Seriously, those used to be headlines. Like I remember like Britney Spears, they used to
count down to when they turn 18 or whatever.
18? Like, the Ashley, the Olsen twins. Definitely.
Exactly. It was nasty back then.
Yeah. I was just literally recently talking about Brooke Shields. And there was an article about her. It's really crazy. You can look it up if you want. But they're talking about her attractiveness in like the 80s. It's an article from the 80s, and she's like 12 at this time. And it's like that was just a normal thing. It was just like in a normal newspaper. Like someone was just giving their opinion about like, oh, I don't think she brought the sex appeal in Blue Lagoon or whatever. It's just like a little kid.
Gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
We at I've been meaning to listen to that. Don't endorse that at all.
We give it a firm yuck.
Oh, yeah. I'm giving that 10 out of 10 yucks. So I'm giving that yuck. I'm giving that a Pusha T yuck.
Yuck. Anyway. Let's see. Anything else?
That's
anything
it.
else
Me.
I'm trying to
Ready
think of
to
anything.
rate.
Let's see. Oh yeah, just like really quickly, Suicidal Thoughts, so great. Just like a really brave closer,
finesse.
just a avant-garde, strange. It reminds me of like Earl Sweatshirt and like Tyler the Creator, like old Tyler the Creator, where like he was like going off and his therapist quote unquote was like, "Hey, stop that!" Just like, what's your problem, young Tyler? Just like whatever. But like yeah, the Earl Sweatshirt in the way like the bleak subject matter and like his ability to like the clarity and the tact used to describe depression is so phenomenal and so like I should go to hell. I can't deal with like heaven and these goody goodies. Like that's so sad and like incredible and like just like so poetic. There's not much more to
Just
say.
wants to get his
than
dick licked.
Yeah. There's not much more to say other than it's like just wow, what a artistic piece this is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Truly.
Yeah.
And a great closeout to the album.
Yeah.
When I first heard it, I think it was like nighttime or something. It was like scary almost the first time I heard
scary.
it. I was like a teenager and whatnot. It's like, wow, that was really deep. Like, I wasn't expecting to go there. But I'm happy that he did go there. Opening up and just being vulnerable and, but also just thematically and sonically, it just is like perfect. It's the perfect bookend to the story that he was telling.
Yeah.
So.
And the idea that like talking about these ideations makes it less likely you will do this to yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like the fact that like he has a song called Suicidal Thoughts and he kills himself on the song, but then Biggie's like walking around in real life is, like that's the therapeutic quality of that,
Exactly. The purging of the actual feeling.
Yeah. Maybe he was foreshadowing. He was like, that old Biggie, he's dead. It's going to be new Versace Biggie on Hypnotize. New Biggie now. That old guy, he's gone. And you can tell.
Look what you made me do. So let's go through final thoughts and rates. So versus we'll rate this album out of 10. Have a fun metric at the end. We've been talking a little bit. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first because it's perfect. It's a perfect album for me. It's a 10 out of 10. I don't care that there's some parts of it that I don't like. The long intros and the sex thing, I got to skip those all the time. But I listened to this album for the first time probably like 2005 or 2006, and I loved it just like I heard it in 1994. It still struck a chord to me, even though the music and the sounds had advanced so much. And then going back and listening to it now in 2024, I love it the same way as if I heard it originally in 1994 and it was just a part of me. I still have that same feeling that I had in 2006 or whatever when I first heard it. And for that is a perfect 10 out of 10 for me.
Fantastic.
Even with Friend of Mine.
I might listen to it and go, like, it's not that bad. Yeah, but I'm not like a production nerd. I didn't like carve producers' names into like a wood table or whatever, like when I was 9 years old. I didn't do that. Yeah, I don't know anyone who would have done that, but like, anyways. Yeah, so I think this is great. I like this personally. I like this a little more than the Pac album, but like the Pac album is so long. It might be better to compare it with something else. Like, like the Ready to Die, the All Eyes on Me is such a left turn from what he was doing before. And like it's so long, it's 2 hours, and it's like it seems like this isn't like, but like these are the two albums that are like on the Apple 100 albums of all time. So like those are the ones I listen to.
I would have put if I was giving you advice beforehand, before you started the journey, I would have did Me Against the World and Ready to Die, and I would have did All Eyes on Me and Life After Death. Those two albums
Those are probably
more
the
aligned.
one-to-ones.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, but like I love the storytelling, his vivid, just buttery flow, just like his slickness, his charisma, just like the poetry that's not like over stuffy. You know, it's just like it just rolls off his tongue and just like spreads on the bread like butter. Yeah, and like the subject matter is very brave and vulnerable while also like providing the bravado to actually talk about this stuff in an environment where it was like much harder to talk about this stuff. So I'm gonna give this who the hell is this paging me at 8:46 in the morning out of 10.
Hell yeah.
Masterfully done.
Yeah.
You all heard my low light. I'm gonna dock it just a little bit for that, and for some of Kevin's lowlights. Honestly, I hadn't listened to this album in a handful of years. It's been a while. I do think y'all can hate me for this. Y'all can pan me for this. I do think some of it is a little bit more repetitive than I would have liked.
It's long.
But that doesn't mean that it's not exactly what Andrew said it is. It doesn't mean that's not exactly what Kevin said it is. I think it sounds really, really good, especially when we were talking about what it meant to have Dr. Dre on your team and you don't have Dr. Dre on your team, and kind of getting the most out of like the mix and everything. This sounds really, really clean overall, and still translates to some degree in 2024. I think I need to also listen to this without the podcast in mind. No, like knock at listening to it in service of like us talking about it, but there's something about the depth of his like reality that I really just want to process in my own sort of moments of downtroddenness, and like kind of feel that a little bit more alongside those low moments for myself, to kind of see where this fits in for me when I'm in that kind of headspace. But overall, such a great debut project. It's a little too good to be a debut project.
Yeah.
It's a little insane. So for that, I'm going to give it 9 rides on the F train, high off the weeds. I don't sound like a cop, do I? High off the weeds.
A little bit.
Oh, brother. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Fantastic. That was our review of Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die. I'm going to take this poster and hang it on my dorm room.
Spread love. It's the Brooklyn way.
Yeah, right next to my Bob Marley poster. One love, or whatever. It's just like
DJ Khaled.
Yeah.
So you're making icons, DJ Khaled and Biggie.
Anyways, so yeah, that was a review of Ready to Die. Fantastic album and conversation. Thank you so much, Kevin. You've been so generous over the years, and like just like we love chatting with you. Just like your expressions and your goofiness is so welcome, but you're also like a really insightful dude. I really appreciate your perspective on things. So
thank you.
Back anytime.
I love it. Music was one of my first loves, so I'm always down to talk about music. I was just so 10 toes down when I first got out into the world and started buying music and downloading music. Again, I was just born at a very weird and interesting time, and I decided to make music my baby. So anytime you want me to come and talk about something, I'll give you my unique and weird perspectives on it, even if I know nothing about it, like Drake and Kendrick.
Drop one more Eminem take on us. Like, why not? Just like throw one on there. Like, really quick.
Well, I would also say that Eminem is wildly underrated because I don't feel like his influence is taken as serious as other people's influences. Like, you brought up Tyler, the Creator. Tyler, the Creator is a direct
100%,
of Eminem. Like, specifically early Tyler, the Creator. And I don't feel like many people were making that connection. I'm like, it's so obvious. Like, it's
so obvious. I doubt it.
Yeah, it's like extremely obvious. Like, he was doing Eminem. He was doing Black Eminem. So yeah, that's the next one. He's extremely underrated, especially as far as people like biting his style and whatnot. I feel like people make the jokes and whatnot and act like he wasn't who he was or isn't who he is. Like, The Death of Slim Shady is really good.
I like some of that album.
Yeah, I mean, he's still got it. Well, I mean, just think like back in this time, this is 1994, let's say we're in 1994. If a rapper was like 52 and it was like, hey, I'm dropping a new album, everybody would be like, what the fuck? No, leave us alone.
Hang me up, uncle.
Any of those Spotify top 10s that I'll drop on Instagram, Eminem is right there still. Yeah, extremely successful. I can't believe how underrated Eminem is. Like it's almost blasphemous how underrated Eminem is. So that's what I'll say about that.
One other influence that I appreciate him in terms of like how it translates to now is I might get dogged for this a little bit too, but I really feel like We Cry Together on Mr. Morale is very much like a Kim esque type song and 100% lifted from like some Eminem kind of Stan also delivery. So Kev, if you ever do that Eminem episode, I hope I'm here to do that with you.
Yeah, really quickly.
I'm all about it.
I don't think we'll include this in the episode, but like it's while we're talking about it, like I was listening to Marshall Mathers, and first of all, really good. But like the Marshall Mathers LP, but like I think my take on it is like, it's like it expresses parental neglect better than almost any album I've ever heard. Like
absolutely,
the results of that, like it's so good.
Yeah.
But enough of that. So
he's white.
Yeah, he's white also. Biggie was fat. But check out Kevin's prior episodes on he did Yeezus, he did Honestly Nevermind and Take Care. Yeah, Honestly Nevermind, Take Care episodes are really great. I really love those episodes.
I'm gonna say this about Honestly Nevermind. I feel completely vindicated saying that was a good album because I hear those songs now and people are like, "Oh man, you know what was good?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I said that at the time. It was really good. It was good then. It's good
now." Never listened to it.
It's good. It's good because I mean I like that kind of music. I like Afro beats kind of vibe, and he brought his own like take to it. I'm very into Coffee Black and his whole sound. Sure. So I was gonna love it no matter what, but I felt like there was like some songs on there that I really stand out, and like Ties That Bind is just phenomenal. Yeah.
My review of it.
I feel like I was right on that.
My review of it, honestly, it's fine. All right, so it's not bad. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard. It's just like a little boring in parts. Check out our show at IBMTLTT on Instagram and TikTok. Watch our YouTube channel. I've been meaning to listen to that. Subscribe to our Patreon. I've been meaning to watch that. We cover music documentaries, music concerts, like filmed concerts and like movies that like musicians have been like act in, musicals. Like it's just like an extension of our show in a lot of ways. Let's see. We just released our Yeah, our Beyonce homecoming episode. We're going to do an episode of Across the Universe, starring with Phil Isco, the great Phil Isco from Podcast Like It's our theme song was by Otness. Our cover art's by Megan Rika Young. Jon Butts, you can follow at Jon Butts is here. Me at Andrew Ambrose Lee. Stenley at Snap a Stan. Michael at Lemon Taco. And Kevin, any final thoughts? Any things you want to conclude with?
Yep. Last thought. Keep Kamala and carry Amala.
I don't know. We're going to keep that depending on which way the election goes.
Either way.
Either way, keep Kamala.
Always keep Kamala and carry Amala.
This is looking at my calendar. 2012. Whoa. Anyways, thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day. Click.